and welcome to the Ratness Podcast, episode number 40-something with Robb Mirsky.
Hey!
Yay! What's up, dude? What's going on?
Hey.
Robb is a cartoonist and illustrator out of the Toronto, Canada area. Is that
That's
correct? All right, cool. I did research. I looked at one thing, and we're going to talk to him today about what he has going on. So, man, thanks so much again for sitting down and talking with us. Really appreciate you giving up the time out of your day.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be here and chat with you guys.
So what's it like living up in Toronto right now? Like the weather obviously is terrible, and with COVID and everything, probably actually works to have an excuse to stay inside, huh?
Yeah, so in terms of COVID, I probably couldn't have asked for a better thing to spend my time doing than cartooning, because nothing like getting rid of your whole social life so you can really focus on drawing. So like I've been so productive in COVID. Most people have had a horrible time, but I know many cartoonists, myself included, have just been like just putting the pen to the paper and just doing it, you know? So in terms of what it's like, it's fucking cold here.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, but it's like in Celsius, it's like -10 around there daily.
Wow.
And there's like 2 feet of snow outside right now. So
Yeah, that I think that's like in the like tens in Fahrenheit. It'd be like 8 degrees or something, like something crazy.
yeah, it's vicious. You don't want to go outside. Another good thing about wanting to stay at home and draw all the time. So it's fine.
Yeah, and you know, as a cartoonist, our natural instinct is to sit home and do nothing and be antisocial anyway. So it feeds right into our master plan.
Absolutely. Like before this, I used to have a social life and only got like a third of the work done. And like I can draw all the time now. It's pretty amazing.
I love that line. I used to have a social life. I swear to God, everyone can identify with that right now.
You know, it's also cool. Timing could have been better because like I'm getting older now and like I was still going out before, but like it was getting to be a drag, you know, I was getting tired.
Kind of gave you an excuse to grow up a little.
Like, fuck it, I'll just stay home.
Yeah, that's rad. That's rad.
Dude, that is funny though. It sounds so cliche and so stupid, but it is like the older you get. I'm not sure how old you are. I'll be 35 this year. And even at that, I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I just would rather be at home.
Yeah,
like going out's
exactly.
fun and everything, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, I've had my time. I'm very glad I had my time. Very fortunate. But, you know, fuck it. Let's make comics.
Hell yeah.
That's right.
Did you party a lot like when you were younger, like in your like early 20s and stuff? Did you?
Yeah, like all the way to like my late 20s. I think it's been about my 10-year anniversary of committing my life to comics, like full on headspace. Because my 20s, I spent a lot of time doing music and stuff and fucking around like lots and, you know.
Yeah, like all of us.
But, you know, it's as my reality catches up, you know, it's harder to keep going like that anyway. So
what kind of music did you play?
I played in like punk bands and loud bands. Was playing in like a folk pop kind of thing. But like I gave it all, like I think my last show was in like 2012 or something. So like we did like a tour and some shows and recordings and then like fuck it, like bye.
Yeah. Same story. That's funny.
That's real funny. We were in a band that broke up like 2012, 2013, and it was kind of that same thing. Like, well, we've been trying for this for a very long time, and we just finally had our last push, and it really didn't do anything, and everyone just kind of scattered.
Yeah,
but it happens.
Yeah, it's hard, man. And you know what? I realized that like in terms of being an artist of any sorts, like I was much happier with my artwork than my music. Like I was writing songs and playing all the time, but like I've been drawing my whole life. And like, that's really what I know the most. So like at a certain point, I was like, I stepped back. I was like, are you just faking this music thing? Like you should go be a cartoonist like you're supposed to be, you know? So I was right before I turned 30 and was just like, and I'm about to turn 40 now. So I've just been like, just drawing like a madman for 10 years.
What,
awesome.
Was that just like the coming to God point of like you said, since you've been focusing on comics the last 10 years, was that like the conscious decision, like, nah, I'm going to like change the focus from music to just illustrating and drawing all the time? Or was there like an event or anything that happened that kind of like skewed you that way?
I think it was just like it was growing, you know, like enough bands had failed and enough things had happened that I was like, are you going to keep going with this? Are you going to do something else? And then like comics has always been the thing. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to switch gears. Like I can still do this, and just did it. So just opened a blog and just started posting to it, and then didn't look back.
That's rad. And you know what? I noticed having all of that time in the music industry and like having to do a lot of stuff DIY, you know, booking all your shows, right, getting all the records done and everything. It teaches you a lot to be able to like run your own business or be a professional cartoonist, because you kind of already have those ideas of how to network and how to work with people. Like those times that we spent in bands were definitely invaluable, even if we didn't recognize what we were learning at the time.
Absolutely. Like growing up in like punk scene and stuff like that, where it was like kids putting on shows and kids starting bands and kids doing all the recordings and making zines and stuff, like all of that, being exposed to all that, just being immersed in all that with like being like the oldest person around, being like 18, like it really taught you like how to do shit on your own sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then it just totally bled into like making comics. Cause like, I don't think I ever thought I was going to work for like Marvel or DC. But like I've been self-publishing comics for like almost 20 years, and it's because of like growing up in like punk bands and stuff like that, and seeing how we can do it without all this other stuff. It doesn't lend to very much money in the end, but like I'm much happier and more satisfied creatively and
Heck
like,
yeah.
you know, life-wise.
Dude, I think that so often people are like, oh, I want to do this thing as a hobby, but the end goal is really to like become a millionaire, become famous off of it. And that's like the antithesis of a hobby. Like a hobby is supposed to be just for your own self, just for self-fulfillment and like enjoyment. And if any money comes, it's like supposed to be whipped cream on top, you know, excessive and superfluous. The whole point is just to create for yourself.
Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure like if I didn't have social media or any stuff, like I would still be making comics, whether or not anyone would see them or not. You know, like I've always been making comics, and like social media is great because now I can like promote them, and like there's been more community online that you can get involved with and stuff. But like none of that would stop me from doing it anyways. You know, it's like I don't really know any other way than to just keep drawing. I'm pretty sure I'll die if I stop drawing. So at this point, it's like you just keep going or I die.
That's great. That's a common theme on this podcast is like, I'll die if I quit creating.
Yeah. I really don't know any other way than to like be creative. It's always been the only consistency in my life, probably, is like making shit, you know?
Yeah. So, when you were young, like when you were a kid, obviously you're probably drawing and like coloring and using markers and pens and whatnot, but were you like an, I don't know, actor kind of a kid? Like, did you like, I don't know, want to show off and tell jokes and like be present? Or was it always kind of like in the background drawing and writing and stuff?
Yeah, no, I would hide behind my sketchbook. And I'd be like, and even my fault at going to art school was the same as like, I would just be, they would want to talk about the art or like talk about it. And I'd be like, no, man, this speaks for itself. Like, if it doesn't speak for itself, then I failed, you know, like. And my teachers hated that response. So like I flunked out of art school. That's fine. But like it's always just been like I would rather draw and watch your reaction based on my drawing rather than me try to like tell you a joke. Like I'd rather like write that joke, you know. Like I've got like comics that I made when I was like 7 or 8 years old. Like my dad sent them to the newspaper to try and get published.
Dude, that's awesome.
That's cool. That's an awesome dad though, to support you at that age and like try to like get it out there as like, all right, this is worth showing the world, you know?
Yeah. I mean, without like a good support system, I don't know if I would have been able to do stuff like this my whole life. Cause like I would, you know, reality sets in or whatever, but
yeah,
I had very, very good parents in that respect. So
that's super rad, dude. Yeah, that, like you said, that support system is a huge deal in any undertaking that you're gonna do. Like it just takes away hurdles after hurdles if you just have someone that's down and like supports you, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
So would you consider yourself more of a cartoonist or a comic book artist? Like what would you call yourself if you had to differentiate between the two?
I would say cartoonist. And I guess only because when you say them together, comic book artist sounds like someone who like draws the comic as opposed to like, you know, in like
right,
where
right.
there's like multiple
You're-
steps. There's a writer and like a colorist.
Right, you're a production piece at that
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's, you know, when I was a kid, I wanted to do animation and stuff. And like between realizing how much work it probably was and realizing how much of a team effort it is, like comics just seemed much more up my alley. It's like I like doing all the parts, like everything. So I'm a cartoonist.
Rad.
Dude, and you reference guys in your bio, like on your site and stuff, like Crumb and like these underground comic artists. Were you into that like when you were a kid, or is that something that developed later? Did you find out about those like in high school, or when? What was your first exposure to like the underground comics and like Mad Magazine and that kind of stuff?
All right. Well, Mad, my dad showed me Mad when I was like 9. And so Mad has like always been a part of my life. Spy versus Spy. I got like, it was the first one I got was like the 1992 Spy versus Spy special. And it was like the fucking raddest thing. It was like 50 pages of these silent comics. I didn't have to understand anything, you know? Like I would read the satires and stuff and not understand any of it.
Right.
It'd be too wordy. But like the art was fantastic, you know? But Spy versus Spy was like cartoony and no words. And at any age you could just digest it. So like it was like Mad, and like I grew up on the newspaper strips, you know, like like Calvin Hobbes was like, that was my coming of age. With Calvin Hobbes was being serialized, so like that and The Far Side, and like but you know, Crumb I found like in college, I think, and then I realized that I'd seen his work a whole lot before that.
Right.
And then like Peter Bagg was like in my early 20s. And then I realized that I had been reading hate comics when I was like a teenager, hanging out at my friend's house, but I didn't know what they were. And so I saw it again, was like, oh, I totally know this. And that like weird familiarity came to be. And it was just like, I don't know, I just sort of like living in Toronto and growing up just outside of Toronto, like we have one of the greatest comic shops in the world, the Beguiling here. And it's like, the amount of things I've been exposed to just from like going and loitering at this comic shop for years on end, it's just like, it's amazing. And like the scene in Toronto before, you know, COVID kind of made everyone stay inside, this is a comics making town. So like there's like so much going on. TCAF is like a big fucking deal. And like, so I feel like it's just always been there. I've always been exposed to it, you know. But when I would finally realize what they were, everything has always been like, oh yeah, I've seen this before and I know this shit. And like, but it just feels like it's always been there, you know, like, but definitely like one after another. It's just Crumb he's great. He's very problematic and questionable and whatever. But like, you know, I would be remiss to say that he didn't help shape me in certain ways. I don't necessarily read his stuff so much anymore, but like he's still one of the greatest fucking artists.
Yeah. It's weird. Like in this, I don't know, I guess the height of kind of conscious politically correctness. It as a comic artist, these guys that we love because of the way they illustrate, or like the fearlessness, or like the mark they left on the art form. It's kind of like reading Bukowski or something and being like, all right, well, this guy was a misogynistic like piece of shit, but I really enjoyed reading this book. When I was 16, especially, it like spoke to me, or you know what I mean? Like it was like a looking into someone else's world, like that kind of essence, or like it captures something that sparks you in a certain way. You don't have to agree with certain parts of it or whatever, but it definitely like lends itself to like shaping who you are.
Yeah, I definitely, with like Crumb, I think seeing his work, even though I can't draw anything like him, there's a certain aspect of his work where it's like, I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, and like with a lot of other guys, like even reading Peter Bagg, I'm like, man, this shit's too tight. So like Crumb is like loose and stuff. And like, I fucking do that, you know, like, and I feel like even though I didn't always get it, or was like this is not, I should not be enjoying this, or like maybe I shouldn't be reading this per se, but like there's something about it that has, you know, he's like the OG like DIY comics maker,
right?
Like standing on the corner and like with like a stroller selling comic books. Like, awesome, like, you know. So
do you prefer going through, like when you're making your comics and cartoons, do you prefer to kind of continue and use one character through many, many different stories and albums, or do you prefer to like create new characters and like allow for different stories to be told in different atmospheres and stuff like that?
I think it kind of depends on what the gag or the story is. Like sometimes I'll write something that doesn't fit with anything I got going on, and I'll kind of, when that happens, I'll like design characters as I'm doing it. Like I don't have like character sheets. I don't sit there thinking about what they should look like. I just sort of draw them.
Yeah.
But I also do have reoccurring characters that I use. Like I got like my Lemons, who I've done a few things with. And then there's like Sludgy, who's got like a bunch of books now. And I got like a comic strip I was doing, I guess 2 years ago now, called Dingus and Dum Dum, which is like a 1930s comic strip. And those are all like reoccurring things. But it kind of just depends. Like if I have a gag, like I just did an action comic that had nothing to do with anything else. So I just wanted to make like an 80s like Schwarzenegger kind of blip of like 7 pages, and that like completely just made everything up differently. But it you know, most of my things I try to see if I can put them into something I'm already working with, because it's easier to identify, you know, oh yeah, I remember that character, or oh, okay, cool new story from, you know.
And that's kind of why
it's just whatever it needs to be done.
Well, that's kind of why I asked, because you've got like, it's almost like you have 3 different series going on, because you are doing like the lemon stuff, and then separate with the Sludgy. You know, it's almost as if you wanted to tell a different story, or I don't know. That's what sparked the thought in my head, is because you're able to create these ongoing, but also separate things, where a lot of comic book artists or cartoonists will have one character that goes through every story that they tell, you know, and that's that guy.
Yeah, I think some of it, I sometimes I'll feel like I'm getting bored of doing one thing. And then I'll just be like, I just want to do a comic with somebody else. Like I was drawing some new Sludgy stuff, and like I finished a story and was like, I gotta draw something else. Like this is like, it feels like I'm just going through the motions to a certain degree.
Sure.
So I have to like change it up. So it's like, because it has to still be fun, right? If I'm not having fun, then like I should probably just do something else until I find it.
When does it not get fun though? Because there's like Dingus and Dum Dum is almost like a play off of like the wimpy like kind of character from like Popeye era, right? Yeah. And it's a certain type of illustration. It's a certain type of look. Like, did that not get fun anymore, or was it kind of like the story, like the jokes, the bits like you had in your mind, like were already done? Like, did you not want to keep writing for it, or how does that like progress to the next one?
Well, I'm still kind of like, I still have a bunch of Dingus and Dum Dum stuff written down from before, and I've got like a Sundays page coming out in like a publication this year.
Oh, right.
Which like was a colored one and stuff like that, and I'm still doing stuff like that. It's just I think what happened was I had wrote the first Sludgy book before I started doing Dingus and Dum Dum. And then I was doing Dingus and Dum Dum. And then I was like, you know what, maybe I'll release this story. And I released the Sludgy story. And then it kind of like people were into it. And I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that. So I just sort of focused a little bit more on Sludgy and started working more on that. And then Dingus and Dum Dum sort of pushed to the side.
Gotcha.
I'm like sitting there like, oh man, I really want to do some more Dingus and Dum Dum stuff. And like these Lemons, like that shit's like old. Like my Lemons are old. And I'm just like, I got more stuff with these guys too. Like I'm just like, whatever, you know.
That's
like
right. The opportunity,
no what I have to do. So.
Right. It came out like necessity to like keep going with the Sludgy stuff because it did so well. And it's not necessarily like you moved on from the other ideas. It was just that one took up more time at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. And I got 2 kids too. So it's like my time is like kind of like all over the place, you know? So like sometimes I don't get any time to draw and other times it's great. So it's, you know, I kind of just have to like, I'm just doing whatever works. Like just fun, just fucking around.
And you mentioned your kids, and I saw that your wife does like silk screening too. Like you guys do like a collab
so we
thing.
we have like a printing store on top of that. So we have like a t-shirt business where like I design t-shirts and she's a screen printer. So
that's
she
rad.
makes t-shirts and we go to shows and do stuff like that. And that's like, I make a lot more money doing t-shirts and stuff than I do making comics.
Yeah.
But we kind of have amalgamated it all into like one spot and stuff. So like when I do a new Sludgy book, like she'll print off t-shirts to go with them and stuff like that. So we got like I'm wearing one right now.
Dope.
But
Yeah,
it's yeah, so it's, you know, we have a silk screening studio in our basement, and so we just just trying to do as much stuff artistically so we can do less at day jobs. You know?
Get control over your
Yeah,
time a little bit more, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I'd much rather be doing all these random things than like, because I spent a lot of time in the retail world, and I'm happy to not have to fucking go in and deal with the boss
Yeah. Or the customers.
breaking my spirits all the time. You know?
I hear that.
Whatever, just trying to make things work. You know, so freelance illustration, selling T-shirts, selling comic books, whatever else.
Have you having to like kind of try pick up consignment stuff like that and like whatever comes your way? Have you made the leap into digital illustrating yet, or are you still doing everything like pen and paper?
No, so I bought an iPad a few years back, and I was doing like half and half.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like I got like pretty proficient with my iPad and Procreate.
Yeah.
And I do most of my real work is like digital these days, because like it's so much faster.
Heck
I can do so much stuff with it. And like when I was working with like real materials and stuff, I'd have to like set up and get ready and stuff. And then my kids would be like, we need some. So it's like, fuck, like, you know, I can't do anything. So I just like have my board there, just like turn it on, draw a little bit, keep running, come back, sort of thing. So I'm doing most of my real work is like digital,
right.
But like I still keep like my sketchbook.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
I'm still doodling. Like people like buy books. I try and like put drawings in some of them when I can, stuff like that. You know, like so I'm still like I love pens. I love paper, like forever.
Yeah,
I don't even like reading comics online. Like I post them online, but like
yeah.
books are absolutely like where it's at. Like I can't, like I just, there's something about holding them that's just it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's the weight of the paper. It's the finish of the, you know, the sheen, whatever, or that it's unfinished, that it's rough, that it's new stock. There's something about different to like every book, right, that you hold. So I don't know. There's something that you just can't replicate when you're just looking at something or reading something on a computer screen.
And I'm grateful to have that. You know, it's still good. And like I don't want to slag anyone who enjoys digital. I'm happy people like care about comics.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I went through like school and stuff and like art school, and like my teachers would always say like comics are like the lowest form of art. And, like, why would you ever even care about them and stuff? And then like I go and see like must have been almost 10 years now, but like Art Spiegelman, there was like in like in the museum, in the art gallery, there was like an Art Spiegelman like fucking exhibit, like in the gallery, like the biggest gallery in Ontario. And it's like, it's covered in comics. And I'm like, I wanted to like call up all my art teachers and be like, fuck you guys. Like,
They're just trying.
So it's, I don't know. It's a life.
Different paths, because I think if you just come from that background of like fine art and gallery art, and that's what you're exposed to, you see the perks of doing it that way, and maybe the reward of doing that way when you sell in those kind of galleries, and those, you put yourselves in those situations. So maybe that's why they encourage it so much. But yeah, it's same. I think more than half of my teachers throughout regular school and my brief stint in art school would be pretty down on comics, in the sense that it was a lower brow or like a lower form of art. Whereas a small percentage really encouraged that it could be just as equal of a pathway to something that you could do with your life, you know, by pursuing it. So, you know, it really is just up to whoever you're listening to. It's the older you get, the more you realize that like school's just people's opinions.
Yep.
Well, that's absolutely true. But I mean, like, it's also like, you know, like I said, like they were like telling me that like comics were shit and stuff. And now there's schools where people can go to learn how to make comics. I'm like, what the fuck? Like that sounds amazing. I can't do it, but that sounds so cool.
Right.
I have to learn this shit on my own, but that's okay. Like it's, you know, it's not how you get there. It's what you do with it.
Yes.
So I want to ask, because we touched on it, but Sludgy was my first introduction to your work. I saw it through Strangers Fanzine. They released one of your Sludgies, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months ago.
Yeah. Every time I have he's been distributing them for me. So when I have a new one, he just puts them up there and sells.
Sick.
That's
real cool.
So, but where did Sludgy start with the idea of like, it would be funny to write like this book that's like not an anti-hero, but what people perceive as something, and he's like completely different. You know what I'm saying? Like, did it start with the idea of the character, or did it start with the illustration that led to the idea of the character?
It started with an illustration. I drew like the first panel, the first one on a scrap of paper when I was like, before I was going to bed one night, and it just sort of sat on my desk for a while with like the title. It was like, I want to make like a horror comic. I don't know what this horror comic is going to be, but I want to make a horror comic. And then I'm like, I really love Casper the Friendly Ghost. And like the whole disposition, like trying to make friends and everyone dies around them, or like just gets scared out of their skin sort of thing. Like, I love that idea. And then so I'm a part of this thing, the Toronto Comic Jam. And so I've been doing this for about 10 years, where it's like you go, and it used to be in person, and you go and you draw a panel and on a piece of paper, and then you put it back, and then someone grabs it and draws the next panel, like, you know, a comic jam.
Fun.
Anyways, this is like kind of like an institution in Toronto at this point. And I've been doing it for so long that I feel like it's definitely influenced how I write my comics, because I basically just write them panel to panel. And then I look back and try and edit things, but like I don't work from a script or anything like that.
Yeah.
So like the first Sludgy stories, I was literally just going page by page, and then like thinking like the whole day before I drew that night was like, okay, what's going to happen? I left it here. Where are we going next? With like no plan. And the first couple of books kind of like clicked pretty well like that. So, but I do them digitally now. So it's like, I plan it a little bit more, like I pencil everything and then I go back and edit it.
Okay.
But Sludgy was just like, it was just like a doodle that I was like, it started with like a monthly, or with a comic challenge where you draw like a comic a day or like a page a day for like a whole month. And then you see what happens. And I just did that and was like, oh, wow, this is actually kind of a decent story. And it's like the longest thing I had done at that point. So it's like, fuck it, let's just put it out. So I put it out. I used to have a collective called Read More Comics. And I put out the first comic in our anthology book. And then just like, then the pandemic hit and we didn't sell any books. So no one saw it. And then I'd like made its own like one shot of like a next Sludgy book. So it's like, I'm up to like, I think I've done like, I'm working on issue 5 technically now.
Sick.
Oh, right on.
Or yeah. So, but it's just, I'm just jamming.
What with the Read More Comics thing, I saw that it was, you guys had like a handful of issues, right? How many? 6?
We had 5.
5. Okay. And then that's something that just got put on hiatus because of the pandemic, or what happened with that?
So we were doing our launches at TCAF every year. And when TCAF got canceled, we were like, well, we're working on number 6, but we have nowhere to release it now. And like, world's spinning out of control and all this shit. And then some things happened where someone started using our name for their catchphrase. This other cartoonist group you may know called Cartoonist Kayfabe. Anyways, it kind of like ruined what we wanted to do with it, because I'm not really into the whole kayfabe vibe and like how they go about things. And so feeling like we were being lumped in with them and stuff. And then that with like the pandemic, we were like, well, there's no hard feelings, but maybe we should just like do our own thing now.
Yeah.
Still like hang out. And I still draw comics with those dudes, but we just like don't do it in Read More Comics anymore.
Right. It's not officially that outlet anymore.
Yeah. But it was good. Like we got to try, like we went to like Chicago for Cake, and we went to like Brooklyn for Cab and stuff like we traveled a bunch. We did a lot. Like I'm very proud of what we did as Read More Comics, but like, you know, it's sometimes you got to know when to call it quits. That's all.
Yeah. No, totally. And that's smart. I mean, it could have gotten a lot stickier, like a lot more just like not having fun anymore and still doing it kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah, having the foresight like, just to like, pump the brakes.
Hobbies, comics, like it's got to be fun, man.
Yeah.
Like no one's paying you enough money to spend your time making comics if it's like the worst thing you do.
Yeah. Even though we all complain about like drawing and illustrating, and it's like, fuck, this sucks sometimes.
It's hard.
But when compared to anything else, it's the best thing you could be doing, you know?
Yeah, I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing. Like I like strumming my guitar, but like after 15 minutes of that, I'm like, I'm gonna go draw. Like, you know, I could spend all my time drawing if I had that opportunity, but nothing else.
I want to call back to what you said, the Toronto Comic Jam, I think is what you called it. That's a really cool idea. I've never really heard that concept. I might be out of the loop, but like, So you're saying you literally go and you just draw a panel and put it on a table, and then someone can come up and just pick one and draw the next panel and put it back?
Yeah, so we were meeting up at this bar. This thing's been going on for like 30 years now. And we'd be meeting up at this bar, and there'd be boards with like pieces of paper set up on the stage, and you just go, you get a drink, you grab a board, you see, and then you just contribute the next panel sort of thing. And then when the page is filled, they collect all the filled pages and put them into like a zine. And then we sell them for like $2-3 or something like that or whatever. And like, so when the pandemic hit, we switched it to online because one of the guys, he figured out a way to like do it so we could all post on the same thing. We're all in like a Discord, so we're talking at the same time.
Okay.
We like meet up once a week and just like drink in the comfort of our own homes and draw and chat, like catch up with each other. So it's really good because like, comics are really like, antisocial, like, you do it yourself. And then you stick a bunch of introverts in a room together and like, they're all drawing, and then you add alcohol and it's like, it's pretty sweet.
It's going to be a good time.
Hell yeah.
No, that's such a rad concept. I had never heard of anything like that before. And that just sounds like such a cool, not only social event, but then also the art that comes out of it at the end has to be so rad because there's absolutely no script. There's no like cohesion to it whatsoever, except
and listen,
for...
you get varying results. You really do.
Oh, I'm sure.
This is the greatest thing I've ever drawn. And then the next person draws a panel and you're like, that's not what I saw of this. Like,
Right.
but like, that's all part of the jam. You just throw down and, you just let it ride.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
that's really cool, man. We'll have to look into something like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
man.
they're super fun.
Yeah, we in San Diego, there's a group called Sketch Party, and they would just line the tables at the bar once a month with paper and provide pens and markers, and you could bring your own shit if you wanted, and everyone just draws, and they save all the drawings and they cut them individually into, I don't know, rectangles, squares, whatever, usable sizes, and then they sell them annually for charity. So that's like
that's wicked too.
Yeah, it's super cool. Like kind of like the same idea of a bunch of weirdos that wouldn't normally get together, getting together and like having a good time, drinking and drawing and bullshitting and collabing, on the tables. So it's a similar concept, but definitely different in the sense that there's no storytelling for the most part. It's basically one-off illustrations.
Like, storytelling can be pretty loose in some of these things.
No, for sure. Yeah, but even the idea of like having to take someone's idea like a step further when it's not your own, is pretty crazy. Like I don't know if I would sink or swim in that sense.
Well,
everyone sort of, you find your own way because like there's totally varying degrees of like talent and stuff like that, but everyone's sort of welcome and like everyone just sort of plays together, and it's fun because sometimes you adapt other people's styles when you try and like do the next panel. You totally try to follow up with like their color palette or like how they draw or stuff like that, and so like it totally forces you to try and think outside of like, I know how to draw all the things in Sludgy really well with my eyes closed. Like it's all just like, I'm just like paint by numbers almost,
at this point, huh?
And then this actually forces me to try and think about something else and like draw on maybe a different style or something like that.
Right. Whereas
I just feel like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I know what to do. It's like, whatever. So
I think
it's nice to change it up because, it's good for the creative brain.
It's really cool how the concept behind this, like, not only are you drawing a bunch of different styles, not only are you kind of like hoping that the story comes in at the end, but really you get a good perspective on how your comics are seen. You might have an idea of the story or what it's supposed to look like or what it's supposed to say, but then every single time you notice people are drawn towards, or they see something like this or this idea a little bit different than what you had. That's great feedback to get too, because
absolutely,
as the artist, that you need stuff like that. And it's so hard to get an honest opinion of like, what does this say to you when they're your friend? Because they're like, already know what Sludgy is and how the story goes, and they're going to give you that. But a complete stranger interpreting it for the first time gives you like raw feedback.
Yeah, we've like some of our like characters that we keep using, like my buddy from Read More Comics, he's got a character called Brick. And it's a fucking brick that runs around in like silent comics. They're the best comics in the world. But like it started with like a comic jam. We just made a brick come to life, and then he kept drawing Brick, and it's been like 6 years, and he's
That's awesome.
That's so
like
funny.
Tons of books, but like it's all just, it started as like a collaborative effort sort of thing. Just like you never know what you're going to get. You never know who's going to
Absolutely.
show up or like who's going to draw what. And it's really fun that way. So
That's really cool, man. I'm stoked to hear that something like that is still like going on and even didn't get squashed because of the pandemic. Like you guys being able
no,
to.
we were meeting once a month and now we meet once a week. So it's
That's
actually,
cool.
yeah, it's been ramped up.
Dude, that's awesome. So I also wanted to like go into this because it just you just dropped it yesterday. As far as I'm not sure when this is going to come out, it'll probably be a few weeks to a month.
So quote yesterday.
Yeah. But officially yesterday, I saw on Instagram that you dropped the mini comic.
There
Eliminate
it is.
Brigade. Can you tell us a little bit about like where that got started and like what went into making this first issue?
All right. So this comic is an 8-page mini comic. It started because this is actually pages from Read More Comics 6 that when we decided to cancel the book, I had these pages floating around. So these are characters that have appeared in Read More Comics and mini comics before. And I had these pages that I really still liked and I wanted to do something with. And I, in the past few months, opened a Patreon.
Okay.
Because like that's like the thing to do. I don't know. So I opened this Patreon, and the part about it that I liked the most was like I could do like I started a mail club. So like if you sign up for like $8 a month, you get like stuff in the mail like every month. So like this was like the first one of the year that I wanted to do. And so this is just like it's 8 pages, but it's one piece of paper.
Rad.
It's got like a fold out on the inside with like another comic. It's got 2 comics on the inside. It's got a cover and a back. And I really like this format. I was doing these a lot before, like in 2014 and stuff, because it was really cheap to make, and I could sort of just hand them out, or like when I'd smoke cigarettes, I would trade them for cigarettes, and like stuff like that. So, but I wanted something to give to my mail club, so I'm gonna try and do like 6 of these for the year, like once every 2 months. And I've already got the second one drawn. Like I said, it's an action comic that's gonna come out. So this is just like my lemon characters. They're like a bunch of would-be punks living in the suburbs, bored, and like they're lemons, so they have like a lemonade stand. It's not like the most thought out idea, but it's like I love these characters and they're so much fun. And it's just like I grew up in the suburbs as like a bored punk, so like I just sort of channel some of the boredom into these kinds of comics. And like there's all kinds of more, like I've got tons more written that I'm going to work on and stuff like that, and they're really fun to draw. And like I said, I really like this format. I'm going to make it so it fits better in the book next time. These were used pages.
Yeah.
So next time everything's going to like fit really nicely. This was like kind of an experiment, but so for Patreon, I've been doing like stickers and postcards and drawings and mini comics. I'd really like to just have like a mini comic subscription. Like I used to follow, I don't know if you guys know Chuck Forsman. He used to run Oily Comics, or I guess he still uses that name maybe. Anyways, it was like you pay like $30 for the year or for 6 months, and he just sends you like an envelope full of mini comics of like different people.
Hell yeah.
And this was like this was like the best thing in the world. Like
Yeah.
so cheap, and just like all these comics in the mail all the time. And like I never shook that idea out of my head. And so I just like this. It's like one piece of paper. It's easy to make. Anyone can do this.
Yeah,
it's easy to mail.
Speaking to the
like,
format of it, just in case there's people listening that aren't watching this on YouTube, was it 11 by 17? What's the
no, so it's a 12 by 18 piece of paper.
12 by 18 piece of paper, but folded into I guess 8 panels, 16 pages with the slit in the middle, so it folds together like a normal book. And
yeah, so it's eight pages including a cover. Like there's 8 facings on it, and then like an insert in the middle. So it's A6 size. I think it's like 4 by 5 or something like that. And yeah, it's full color. And they're $3. You can buy them off my website, or mymovingparts.com, which is like our business. Okay. And you can buy them there. I ship them all from home. Got all kinds of comics on there too. And like, yeah, I just want to make comics. And like, so I got another sludgy book I'm working on right now. But in the meantime, like while I'm doing that, I'm just trying to get out some mini comics at the same time. Cause like I said, if I stop making, I don't know if I might disappear.
Yeah. That's the idea.
No, I really like the way that page folds together, that style, and then being able to open it up and almost have like a poster on the inside too. It really throws back to when we were kids, when you open up a CD and you get all of the information, and then you open it and they actually included a poster with it. Like that's even more cool, you know? So it's almost like a throwback to that as well.
Yeah, no, I like I've been obsessed with music forever. So like all those inserts and stuff, like yeah, that's totally I was in there too.
For sure. I was that kid that had my album like covers on the wall and like framed around, you know what I mean? Like I love this band. I like this music, you know?
Yeah, I would just like sit there listening to like tapes and CDs and just pouring over like the inserts and stuff and being like, this is so fucking cool, man.
Yeah. Just taking it in. No, that's rad. I really love the coloring that you chose too for that one. Like I love on the Slushy book that we have here, I was flipping through it, and the color scheme is like perfect for the story, like perfect for the feel. But then you were able to do the same thing with the coloring for the lemonade stand. It's bright and vivid and fun. You know what I mean? Like very happy, I guess. You know what I mean? Very like exciting to look at as you're going through it. I think
it's like their lemonade stand. It's like bright sunny day, and it's like, but he's fucking pissed.
Yeah, but they're punks. Yeah, they hate that they're so bright.
When they show up, they have like a turf war with a bunch of limes. You know, who are like they're trying to take over with their own lemonade stand and stuff, and like so they're like beefing and stuff until they figure out how to work it out. But it's all like it's supposed to be like that, like cheerful.
Yeah,
I really like. Even Sludgy is like drawn cute, and then I try to make it darker. You know, like it's like I really like drawing cute, but then like you know, like just twisting it like right up. Like,
and maybe that's what's so appealing about it. I mean, definitely for me when I like checked it out, it was like, all right, I get the throwback to like the Casper like vibe, but it is different. It's not like a bootleg Casper in that sense to me.
Yeah.
It stands alone to me, but it's fun. It's there's this movie Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I'm not sure if you've ever seen it. I
don't know if I've seen it, but I know the name for sure.
I watched it one day not expecting much, and it's that same vibe of the sense that everyone thinks these guys are the bad guys, but really it's just a circumstantial, like a bunch of coincidences that happen around them that make them seem like the bad guys. And from their point of view, or from Sludgy's point of view, they're like, why are you guys running from us? You know, why are you running from me? What am I doing wrong? Because they're just trying to be friends. He's just trying to be everyone's buddy. He wants to, you know, hang out, but everyone just is so afraid of this little character. And I don't know, from the first page I was hooked, dude. Is rad. Really like it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just, you know, I just want to make fun comics. I don't necessarily want to make like the most important thing or like the thing that speaks to everyone. Like, I'm not going on anyone's top 10 lists. I don't really care. I just want to be a part of like making comics. Like, this is like how I make fun comics, you know, like, like I don't know. I'm just looking to be here, you know. I'm just happy to draw them, and like I kind of just like that idea of like, because I was reading some like of those old like Harvey comics, like Casper stuff, and I'm like, this is kind of terrible. Like I'm reading these again, like these are shit, but these are like so much fun, and like maybe I'm doing this, and it's like in that vibe, but it's for like people who grew up on this and they want something different. They don't want to read Casper again, you know. Like maybe they want to read something different, but in that same vein where it like harkens back to something they remember, or, you know.
Yeah, definitely tugs on the nostalgia. Cartoons,
but yeah, it's like it's got that's what it feels like for me, at least. So I'm trying to make myself smile first.
Yeah.
And then if I can do that, then there's a good chance I can make some other people do
absolutely
that too.
No, yeah, dude. I saw the another one of the Lemonade Brigades. I don't know if it's older or if it's from that, but they're playing video games. And he keeps, you know, he's nudging him. That's in there. And and then he gets squared in the eye with lemon juice and he freaks the fuck out. Yeah, no, it's fun. It's lighthearted. Yeah. It's goofy, but even as, you know, a 35-year-old, I'm like, I like it made me giggle. It made me fucking laugh. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There's something to be said about just like lighthearted comics that don't have, I don't know, a agenda.
Totally. And like, I like a lot of those too, but you know, like, I don't know. A lot of the stuff I like is just goofy.
Yeah.
You know, it's just goofy shit.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, that's the thing about comics too, is like, there's so much room to do whatever the fuck you want because there's so many different ways to do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there's tons of comics I don't like and genres I don't like, But like, there's so much good stuff out there too. And like, so I just try and absorb as much as I can and try and put some of that back into my own work, you know,
Yeah.
the best I can. Like, I just try to keep going because I don't know what else we do.
Hey, so I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. You said you had started doing a weekly, like in a weekly Sunday comic strip or something like that.
It was only one.
Oh,
but
you
it
did
was like
one.
it was
Oh, okay.
for like a it's a publication. It's just all inspired by Sunday funnies. So it's like a Sunday page for each one. And I did Dingus and Dum Dum because I was like, well, I've been doing these like daily strip kind of characters. I should make them into a Sunday because like I read a lot of Popeye. Like you were bringing up Popeye.
Yeah.
Popeye's like my favorite.
Nice.
And so like I'm always reading Popeye and I'm like, the strips are amazing. And then there's like full color pages too. And you're like, oh fuck, man, there's so I was like, I have to do this. Like I started it all because of reading comics like that. And I was like, I'm going to take a stab at doing this too. So it's not a weekly. I'd like to do more of those, but it's the color palette on that one was a very big struggle. Cause like I'm making these like, it's a black and white comic. And I'm like, okay, so I got to try to make this look like old school, like 30s.
Yeah. Those muted colors. Yeah.
I don't know how to do that shit.
I don't think that the illustrators really knew how to do that shit. It was just the whatever ink they were using to produce it.
Yeah,
sat that certain way.
And stuff.
Yeah.
So, but at this point, you're like trying to replicate that in some sort of other way because like those methods don't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just sort of I struggled. Like coloring is the hardest part for me. I'm like kind of colorblind, so like a lot of times I'm just like, this is like I can draw a comic in a day and spend a week coloring it. Like that's how much I hate coloring. But you know, when you get it, it feels really good. You know?
I was gonna say that hatred for the color does not come out in the books. Like it seems like you're like,
well, Sludgy. Part of why I did Sludgy was because I was like, I cannot fathom like doing a proper color palette here. I'm gonna try and do this like those 50s like monster movies, but like have this piss tone over it or something.
Yeah.
Like, and that's where that started. It was equal part like B movie and fear of color. I don't know. So
fear of color,
dude. It's art out of necessity, and it came through like I don't know. It looks rad.
Yeah, clutch.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it seems to work, and like it's finally. I'm like I draw 28 pages, and I don't look back and go like I have to color all this shit too. Like it's like a much quicker process with less involved than a regular color would be. But like for the lemons, I got my palette down now. So like I kind of like I know what color.
Right.
Once I
what
start
works.
colors in, I see where I need to fill in the other colors and stuff, and I make it work. But like, yeah, no, it's a struggle. It's always a struggle. So,
I mean,
comics are hard. If anyone tells you comics are easy, they're lying to you.
That's fucking A. Art in general, man, it's hard. Art is a struggle.
Creating is putting yourself out there. Like,
yeah,
even for anything, just putting yourself out there, man. It's a lot.
You know what? That brings up a really good point. And I see it in you. I've seen it in so many of the people that we interview on here about the willingness to put themselves out there. You know, there's a lot of people that are really scared and they create something and it's their own. And I'm kind of this way where I'm like hesitant to give it to the world because I know what it is to me. And as soon as I give it to them, it's out of my control. You know, I have such a appreciation for people like yourself that are willing to just go hard and just continue to put it out and put yourself out there and allow people to judge it, allow people to make their opinions on it and make that next panel at that spot, or, you know, represent yourself over and over again and continue with no matter how it's taken. Like I have so much respect for that because I know personally how difficult it is to give something that you've created away.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a pretty big like mental leap to get over to get to that point. But I think when I opened my blog and I was like, I'm gonna post like a new comic once a week. I'm gonna draw something new once a week. I'm gonna post it to here, and I like forced myself to stay on that schedule. And even if I didn't like it, a lot of times I didn't like it. When I look back on a lot of those comics, I fucking hate them. They're terrible, but like they're still out there.
It's content, yeah.
Like, and it's at this point, it's like, I just put it out there and I just move right on. Like I don't even think I used to get really depressed after finishing a book because like I feel like I didn't have any more purpose. Like I was like, well, I did it. Now what? And I wouldn't draw for like 2 or 3 weeks, like not. And now it's just like, well, I've got like 5 things going on at the same time. I just got to keep moving, sort of thing. So
totally,
it's hard to get over that first hurdle, but man, it's I watched a really good thing where it was like it's more important to like finish something than to perfect something.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's not like what you want or how you see it, like finishing it. And it's worth noting that it's good to know when to quit if something's not working. You don't have to always finish everything, but being able to finish things is like something that a lot of people struggle with.
That's like most of the battle, man. You could spend, no matter how good it is, you could spend more time perfecting it if you're stuck in that mentality of it has to be perfect before I do something with it. But
But the reality is nothing's ever going to be perfect, and you got to go with it. Because even if you think it's perfect, you'll look at it in 6 months and see where you could have improved, and shit like that. So like, it's better to just keep going, and every time you do something, you'll get a little bit better, and it's like another step forward and stuff. It's like if you keep spinning your wheels in the same thing, you're never going to get out of it, But that's why I just keep fucking. That's why Instagram stuff like that's great. You just keep, and it's not great, but it's great in the sense that I just keep throwing shit at the wall and like moving on. And sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't, But like I said, like I feel like for me at least, it's more important to like do something than to like try to like do it well.
And the reality is all of that's part of the journey, because then you go back and look and you're like, oh, I can see this phase of when I was feeling like this and drawing like this. And then you transition into this other thing. You know what I mean? One might be a little more personal and a little bit more emotional, like from you that you're putting into it. And then you'll remember the place and time and how your headspaces that you were in while you're there. And that's one good thing, social media, especially Instagram with all of their photos and videos, it's documenting your process if you post on there constantly.
Yeah.
To where
listen, I as I'm saying these things, I'm also realizing that like I don't do like auto bio stuff where you're like putting yourself out there, like your feelings and like really making yourself vulnerable. Like I'm making myself vulnerable in another way, but like I'm hiding behind jokes and stuff like that.
Right.
So like it's a whole nother bag to like do auto bio. When I try and do auto bio, I start with auto bio and then it turns into some weird fucking fantasy. It like changes. Like I'd never stay true to myself because like I'm boring. I don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. But like, there's different degrees of like emotional attachment to putting out. And like mine, I love my work and I like it's mine and like all that shit. But like, I'll just draw something else if something happens. It's whatever. I'm like super attached to anything. I'll just move on.
Yeah,
that's a rad way to be.
I was gonna say that's the way to be, man. You gotta constantly be, if not progressing, just changing. Because that will lead to progression. That does lead to progression. Is not doing the same thing over and over and over again. Don't beat the dead horse.
And the other option is becoming stagnant. Yeah.
What's that?
The other option is becoming stagnant. And nobody wants to do that.
No, and then everything becomes a drag, and then like, why am I even doing this? Like, I'm just gonna go to get a job driving a truck or something, Like,
as if as artists we don't have enough crippling self-doubt. I say it all the time. It's like we're constantly like one step away from being like, fuck this, I'm gonna go work for Amazon. There
was like, and it doesn't happen so much anymore, but like a couple of years ago, I think it was like twice a week, I told my wife I was quitting comics. And then she'd have to like talk me back to it because like she knows that it's like so tied to like my happiness is like me drawing the shit that like even if I say I'm gonna give it up, I can't. But like I'd just be quitting constantly because I'm like I hate everything. It's so disheartening. Like everything sucks. I was like, is it also a really good time for comics right now? Like indie comics are like just there's so much good stuff out there, and there's so many people making amazing work. Like, I'd be stupid to be fucking sitting on the sidelines right now.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, I'm glad she talked you off the ledge.
Yes, 100%.
So, I love your work. It's rad. Thank you so much. We're about hitting time. But before we get out of here, I just want to thank you again for talking with us and kind of opening up and giving us a little insight to your world, man. And
absolutely.
One more time, your website, your Patreon, your Instagram, you want to hit everything so people know where to check out your work?
Yeah, you can buy shirts and comics and other things at mymovingparts.com, which is our website. We've got everything there. We ship everywhere in the world and pretty reasonably priced, I think. I don't know. You should go and check it out and see for yourself. Instagram is at MirskTunes, MIRSK Tunes, TOONS. Patreon is also patreon.com/MirskTunes. For $2, you can read all my comics that I put up there as I make them. There's lots of stuff no one's seen because Instagram is a pretty brutal place to try and post stuff. Like, you know, it's good for panels and swipe comics, but you can't post a page up there. It doesn't show shit. So if you want to read stuff no one else has read yet, you should join my Patreon. For like $2, you get new comics. For $4, you get processed stuff too. And for $8, you get mail, like comic books, stickers, all kinds of stuff. So that's MirskTunes. Follow me there. Yeah, shop at My Moving Parts because we could really use your support.
Hey, well, thank you for being here with us, dude. Thank you for taking so much time out of your day. It was a joy talking to you. And everybody go support mymovingparts.com and also his Patreon. I think you will not be disappointed. Ah, shit, I don't think it. I know it.
Hell yeah. Thanks, guys.
Hell yeah, dude. We're going to do a quick outro. Stay on the line. I want to ask you a couple more things, but
yeah, sure.
Appreciate it, man. So this has been another episode of the Rat Nest Podcast. You can catch us every week on YouTube for video and anywhere you get your podcast for the audio. Go to ratneststickerco.com for comics, zines, t-shirts, stickers, and more. And look forward to new episodes every week for the next few months. Jim?
I'm Jim.
Yeah, I think that's it. Cool. See you next week.